Firefox Replay is a new feature for DevTools that makes it easier to understand why things happened. So let's take a look. I'm going to remove this to do and walk through a quick example. Let's start off by enabling replay, which is going to start live recording, and add some to-dos. And notice how when I try to edit this to-do and hit enter, we get an exception. So with replay, in addition to just getting the stack trace, you can also rewind to where this exception happened. So I'm going to click this button, and then the debugger, we're brought to where the exception was fired. And we have this nifty slider as well, which I'll explain. With the slider, we can rewind to the beginning of the function and see what it was doing. So we see that we're in the close function. And the first thing we try to do is calculate the value of the to-do that we want to save it to. And if we move forward in the function, we see that we try to save the to-do, that succeeds, and then we go here to try to remove the editing class, and that fails because remove class is not a function. In the console, we can take a look at l.classlist and see that it does have an editing class that we want to remove, but we probably want to use the jQuery function. Okay, so that does work. And if we take a look at the class list again, we'll see that it was removed. So that's a pretty easy fix. Now that we have an idea of what's going on and how to fix the bug, I'm going to go ahead and save this recording. Replay, save recording, editing, to do. And I'm saving it because I want to send this recording to a colleague on the team who works on this component and can fix it. So when we've saved, when we've saved recording, it's really, really easy to then go ahead and open it. All you have to do is go to Replay, load recording, a new tab, editing to do, and then the recording is just going to run from the start. And of course, our colleague can rewind that location and see what's going on. But let's say that they haven't worked on this component for a while and are not too familiar with how the to-do view is structured and want to get a better idea of what's going on. Well, in that case, they can go ahead and add some logs. Now, if you look at our console log, it's pretty sparse. But with replay, it becomes really easy to build a chronology of what happened. You can basically add logs wherever you'd like. So let's start with the render function. I want to start with rendering because generally with most apps, just seeing how often something renders is a pretty good place to see what's happening. All right, when I save this breakpoint, when I save this log point, we're going to immediately see in the console all the places where the to-dos were rendered. And in the timeline, we can scrub over them and see what the app looked like at each point in time. And you can click on any marker and rewind to dig in even more. So that tells us how often, or this tells us when our to-do component was rendered, but it doesn't tell us why it was rendered. So let's look at each of these and get a better idea. In the first to-do, we're rendering because we went ahead and added a to-do. So let's add that log as well. Okay. And if we go back to the console, we'll see that we, in fact, rendered to-dos because the first couple renderings were because of new to-dos. Let's take a look at rendering A over here. In this case, we were rendering the to-do because it was just toggled. So let's add a log. Great. And if we go back to the console, we'll see that it looks like the next 4 or 5 to-dos were rendered because we were toggling a to-do. But the last one was different. So let's just quickly see that. In this case, we were rendering it because we were updating it right here. So now log, updating. Great. And this was the one where we had the exception as well. So that tells us that in the last case, we were trying to update this to-do. The render went through, but then it failed to remove the class. And if we go back to the console, we have a really good chronology now of the recording. And we have a better idea of why the to-do component changed. And I think we can now feel pretty safe about making this change and not having any unintended side effects. Yeah, I hope this was helpful in explaining some of the functionality of Replay and some of the ways in which it could be used. I look forward to hearing what you think.